Departments of brain. Rhombencephalon subdivides into medulla oblongata or myelencephalon and metencephalon. And metencephalon consists of what? Pons and cerebellum. Next time you will prepare midbrain, that is mesencephalon. And you know that prosencephalon consists of diencephalon and telencephalon. And diencephalon, I write here, diencephalon subdivides into thalamencephalon, and hypothalamus. And thalamencephalon consists of three parts. They are thalamus, then epithalamus, and metathalamus. And hypothalamus subdivides to anterior part or visual, and posterior part or olfactory. That is classification of departments of diencephalon. Look here, that is midbrain. And midbrain in preparate consists of two parts. Upper part of midbrain, that is roof of the midbrain or tectum, and it has four colliculus, quadrigeminal colliculus. These two, superior colliculus and inferior colliculus. And inferior part of midbrain, that is peduncle, peduncle cerebri. Today you prepare three peduncles of what? Cerebellum. And next time you will prepare peduncle of the brain, peduncle cerebri. Here it is in this model. That is roof or tectum of midbrain and peduncle cerebri. Now I will draw diagram of midbrain, and you should draw this diagram next time. That is midbrain. Cavities of the midbrain, that is cerebral aqueduct. And here it is, that is the roof. And if we cut in transverse section of midbrain, upper part has name lamina tecti, number 1, lamina tecti. This is peduncles of the brain, and peduncles subdivides into two. Number 2, that is tegmentum, and number 3, that is base of the peduncle of the brain, basis peduncle cerebri. And between tegmentum and basis peduncle cerebri, we can see black substance, substantia nigra. Substantia nigra, that is a border between tegmentum and basis peduncle cerebri. And number 4, that is cerebral aqueduct, and 5, black substance, substantia nigra. Now, inside of quadrigeminal colliculus, for example, that is transverse section at the level of superior colliculus. If it is superior colliculus, inside we can see nuclei of superior colliculus, nuclei colliculi superioris. And from this nucleus start tractus, tecta, spinalis. Number 6, nucleus of superior colliculus. Number 7, tractus, tecta, spinalis. And number 8, decus satso, dorsalis tegmenti, dorsal decussation of tegmentum. Next, in tegmentum, largest nucleus of the midbrain. You already know what is the name of this nucleus. Who can answer? What is the largest nucleus in midbrain? Yes, red nucleus, nucleus rubber, nucleus rubber. Number 9 in my diagram, number 9. And this nucleus gives beginning for tractus rubra spinalis, number 10, tractus rubra spinalis, and this tract makes ventral decussation of tegmentum, decussatio ventralis tegmentum. Laterally from red nucleus we have lemniscus medialis, that is 12, and lemniscus lateralis, number 13. Lemniscus medialis, today you already know, consists of spinothalamic anterior and lateral and bulbothalamic tracts. And lateral lemniscus, that is auditory fibers. Auditory fibers. Here it is the same. Next, these two fascicles you already know. Fasciculus longitudinalis medialis. Here it is, what is it? Formatio reticularis, number 15. And nuclei of cranial nerves. Today you already know 8 cranial nerves, from 5th till 12th. In midbrain we have another 2 cranial nerves, third and fourth. Third cranial nerve, oculomotor nerve, it has motor nucleus, near of cerebral aqueduct, number, what is last number? 15. That is why 16, that is motor nucleus of oculomotor nerve, nucleus motorius nervi oculomotori, and autonomic parasympathetic nucleus, it is nucleus accessorius, number 17, nucleus accessorius. And third nerve leaves midbrain in ventral surface, and this place between peduncles has name fossa interpeduncularis, number 18, fossa interpeduncularis, and here it is oculomotor nerve, that is third cranial nerve, leaves midbrain. If we cut midbrain at the level of inferior colliculus, everything will the same, everything. Here it is will nuclei of inferior colliculus, the same, they give tractus tectus spinalis, but at the level of inferior colliculus, near of cerebral aqueduct, we have only one motor nucleus of fourth cranial nerve, that is trochlear nerve. That is, I put here number 1, that is motor nucleus of trochlear nerve, nucleus nervi trochlearis, and this nerve leaves midbrain in dorsal surface at the level of inferior colliculus, that is fourth cranial nerve, nervus trochlearis, trochlear nerve, nervus trochlearis, nervus trochlearis. In my model, look here, that is superior colliculus, here it is inferior colliculus, and this nerve, this cranial nerve, that is trochlear nerve. It leaves midbrain at the level of inferior colliculus, that is trochlear nerve, and in ventral surface, look here, that is pedunculate cerebri, here it is fossa interpeduncularis, and you can see third cranial nerve, oculomotor, nervus oculomotorius. And last, in peduncles, we have some tracts. Number 19, I think. Tractus frontopontinus. Frontopontinus. It starts from brain cortex, from frontal lobe of the brain cortex, and goes to pons. It finished in nuclei pontis. Today you already know where this nuclei. And tractus frontopontinus starts from frontal lobe of hemisphere and goes to nuclei pontis. Next, number 20, tractus cortica nuclearis. 21, tractus cortica spinalis, both anterior and lateral. And 22, tractus accipita tempora pontinus. Start from occipital, temporal, parietal, the same lobes, and goes to nuclei pontis. That is why cortex of hemisphere of brain joined with nuclei pontis with the help of tractus frontopontinus and tractus accipita tempora pontinus. They goes to nuclei pontis, and from nuclei pontis, tractus pontocerebellaris continues to cerebellum. That is why cortex of hemisphere joined with cortex of cerebellum with the help of two tracts. First, that is tractus cortica pontinus from cortex frontopontinus and accipita tempora pontinus, and tractus pontocerebellaris. Only this diagram you need to draw next time. All another my diagrams only for your understanding. Look here. That is thalamus. Thalamus has egg shape. That is, anterior narrow part has name anterior tubercle, and posterior wide part of thalamus it's pulvinar, number 2. And both thalamus join together with the help of adhesio interthalamic adhesion. My left hand, that is left thalamus, that is right thalamus, and between them we can see adhesio interthalamica, that is communication between right and left thalamus. Look here. In this model, that is thalamus, here it is thalamus, that is right thalamus, should be the same on the left side, and this structure between right and left thalamus, that is interthalamic adhesion, adhesio interthalamica. Well, that is thalamus. Behind of thalamus, posteriorly from them, we have, look here, that is thalamus, then metathalamus, that is all structures which is behind of thalamus. It consists of two geniculate bodies, corpus geniculatum mediale and corpus geniculatum laterale. Medial geniculate body, it's joined with the help of brachium with inferior colliculus of midbrain. That is inferior colliculus, that is brachium of inferior colliculus, and is joined with corpus geniculatum mediale. And lateral geniculate body, it joined with superior colliculus with the help of brachium of superior colliculus. And now, what is the function? Superior colliculus, that is subcortical visual center. That is why lateral geniculate body, the same like pulvinar of the thalamus, they are subcortical visual centers. And inferior colliculus, the same like medial geniculate body, they are subcortical auditory centers. That is why here, look here at my diagram, that is superior colliculus, here it is inferior colliculus of midbrain, that is brachium of inferior colliculus, that is corpus geniculatum mediale, that is brachium of superior colliculus, and corpus geniculatum laterale. These two geniculate bodies, medial and lateral, that they are metathalamus. Metathalamus consists of two geniculate bodies. And last, epithalamus. What is epithalamus? Here it is, we have triangle, that is trigonum habenule in dorsal surface of the thalamus, and from this triangle start white matter which goes to pineal gland. Here it is pineal gland, corpus pineale, pineal gland, and this white matter which is joined triangle with pineal gland, that is habenula. And in front of pineal gland, right and left habenula join together and makes commissura habenularum. And all of these structures, trigonum, triangle, trigonum habenula, commissura habenularum, and pineal body, all of these structures, that is epithalamus. Well, thalamus has 5 groups of nuclei. Total number of nuclei in thalamus more than 40. But we will speak only about 5 groups of nuclei. Anterior nuclei, they are subcortical olfactory center. Posterior nuclei, subcortical visual center. Lateral nuclei of thalamus, that is place where lemniscus medialis finished. And lemniscus medialis, what does it conduct? Spinothalamicus anterior. Which type of sensitivity conducts spinothalamicus anterior? Feeling of what? Touch. Then lateral spinothalamic tract. What does it conduct? Pain and temperature. And bulbothalamic tract? Conscious, proprioceptive sensitivity and feeling of stereognosis. That is why lateral nuclei of thalamus, that is place where all types of sensitivity from human body take place. Everything what our body feeling, that is touch, temperature, pain, and proprioceptive sensitivity, everything present in lateral nuclei of thalamus. Medial nuclei of thalamus, that is extrapyramidal system, and central nuclei of thalamus, that is reticular formation. We described thalamencephalon, and now hypothalamus. Hypothalamus, I already said, that consists of anterior and posterior parts. Here it is. Hypothalamus, that is all structures which is below of thalamus. Here it is thalamus, that is why here, hypothalamus. Consists of optic chiasma, that is optic nerve, that is second cranial nerve, optic. It makes optic chiasma, then optic tract, tractus opticus, and tractus opticus goes to lateral geniculate body, it goes to superior colliculus of midbrain, and pulvinar of thalamus. It goes to subcortical visual centers. Behind of optic chiasma, we have tuber cinereum, and tuber cinereum continues into infundibulum, and infundibulum finished with hypophysis. That is optic chiasma. Behind of optic chiasma, we have tuber cinereum, and this tuber cinereum continues into infundibulum, and infundibulum joined with hypophysis. In a minute we discuss some words about hypophysis, and now we finish with hypothalamus. Behind of tuber cinereum we have mammillary body, corpus mammillaris. It is paired structure, that is here, mammillary body. And behind of mammillary body we have posterior perforated substance, substantia perforata posterior. All of these structures together makes hypothalamus. And hypothalamus, it has one again optic chiasma, optic tract, tuber cinereum, together with infundibulum and hypophysis, mammillary body, and substantia perforata posterior. Anterior part, that is optic chiasma, infundibulum, tuber cinereum, and hypophysis, that is anterior visual part of hypothalamus. And mammillary body, together with posterior perforated substance, that is olfactory or posterior part of hypothalamus. Now, 2 words about hypophysis. Hypophysis or pituitary gland, it subdivides into 2 lobes, anterior and posterior. posterior lobe, that is narrow hypophysis, and anterior lobe, adenohypophysis. Narrow hypophysis not produce hormones, but it accumulate them. And these hormones of posterior lobes of hypophysis, they produced in hypothalamus. We have supraoptic nucleus and paraventricular nucleus. These nuclei produce hormones, and axons of neurons goes to posterior lobes of hypothalamus and transport hormones to this posterior lobe. Who know what is the name of hormones in posterior lobe of hypophysis? Oxytocin and vasopressin, or antidiuretic hormone. These hormones accumulate in posterior lobe, and from here goes to blood and participate in function. Oxytocin is stimulate constriction of smooth muscles of uterus, for example, in time of delivery of fetus. And vasopressin, or antidiuretic hormone, is regulate reabsorption in nephron, in tubules of nephron. Reabsorption. And another function of this hormone is constrict blood vessels, vasoconstriction, and reabsorption. Now, anterior lobe of hypophysis, it produces hormones, somatotropic hormone, adrenocorticotropic, thyrotropic, gonadotropic hormones, and these hormones produced in anterior lobe of hypophysis, but hypothalamus send to anterior lobe of hypophysis liberins and statins. Liberins, they stimulate function of anterior lobe, and statins, they inhibit function. And these liberins and statins produced in hypothalamus and transport to anterior lobe of hypophysis through blood vessels, that is portal vessels, which start from hypothalamus and goes to anterior lobe of hypophysis. That is why anterior lobe joined with hypothalamus with the help of blood vessels, and posterior lobe receive hormones from hypothalamus through axons of neurons. That is hypothalamo-hypophyseal system. Now, and that is last information today, third ventricle. Third ventricle, that is cavitas in diencephalon between both thalamus. Space between right and left thalamus, that is third ventricle. And third ventricle has 6 walls. Lateral walls, that is medial surface of the thalamus, it is medial surface, that is lateral walls. Now, superior wall. Superiorly, we have telechoroidea, the same like where we have telechoroidea else? On the roof of fourth ventricle. Today you should prepare that roof of the fourth ventricle has telechoroidea, and telechoroidea in fourth ventricle has how many openings? 3. Apertura mediana and apertura lateralis. In third ventricle, telechoroidea have not got openings, just it's present and it's produced cerebrospinal fluid. Now, superior wall, that is telechoroidea, above of telechoroidea, that is a fornix, and above of fornix we have corpus callosum. Here it is, corpus callosum. These 3 structures makes superior wall or roof of the third ventricle, telechoroidea, then fornix, and corpus callosum. Next, inferior wall. Inferior wall of the third ventricle, that is all structures of hypothalamus. Optic chiasma, tuber cinereum with infundibulum, mammillary body, and posterior perforated substance. All of them take place on inferior wall of third ventricle. And inferior wall has 2 recesses. In front of optic chiasma we have optic recess, and behind of optic chiasma, it is opposite to infundibulum, we have recessus infundibuli, two recessus on inferior wall of the third ventricle. Now, posterior wall. Posterior wall has commissura habenularum, that is commissura habenularum. Below of commissura habenularum, we can see commissura cerebri posterior, that is commissura cerebri posterior. Between them, we have recess, and behind of this recess, we can see pineal gland, corpus pineale, that is here. This white structure, that is pineal gland, that is habenula, and above of habenula, commissura habenularum. Here it is commissura habenularum, that is commissura cerebri posterior, and between them, recessus pineale. And below of commissura cerebri posterior, that is opening of cerebral aqueduct. Look here, that is commissura, and below of this commissura, opening of aqueductus cerebri. One again, posterior wall of the third ventricle consists of commissura habenularum, recessus pineale, commissura cerebri posterior, and opening of cerebral aqueduct. And last, anterior wall. Anterior wall of the third ventricle, if you remember, superiorly we have fornix, and fornix anteriorly it continues into columna fornices, that is right and left columna fornices. Between them we have lamina terminalis, and between columna and thalamus and anterior tubercle of thalamus we can see opening here and opening here. These two openings, they are communication between third ventricle and lateral ventricle. This blue color inside of hemisphere, that is lateral ventricle. And lateral ventricle joined with third ventricle on anterior wall with the help of foramen interventricularia. This and these two openings, they are foramina interventricularia. Well, that is third ventricle, walls of the third ventricle, and communication anteriorly with lateral ventricle and posteriorly through cerebral aqueduct with fourth ventricle. Give me your textbook. Thank you. Midbrain next time. That is diagram of midbrain. Forebrain and only diencephalon. And only this diagram you need to prepare, all another only for your understanding. Metathalamus, hypothalamus, and third ventricle till here, till telencephalon.